Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. I'm your host, Dave Kosminski, and we are in our studio live with a colleague of mine for many, many years, Mr. Guy Russo, who is basically the Director of Water and Sewer for the city of Middletown for many years and now is off into another venture on the private side. So, hi, Guy, how are you? Thanks for coming over.
Hey, Dave, great to see you again, my friend.
Hey, when you get our age, it's good to be seen.
Well, it's, as I say, it's better than being viewed.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, just a brief synopsis, of how I instituted the podcast. As you well know, as we all are getting to that, as we say, either the gray tsunami or in my case the bald tsunami, and so forth. So we got to restart refilling the pipeline. So, tell us a little bit how you got into the water and wastewater industry.
Well, I came out of Yukon in 1977. And we were in the middle of a little bit of a recession, so things were kind of quiet. Yep. I had worked in the private sector for local industry, doing a lot of wastewater work for the plating industry when a position came open at the city of Middletown in the sewer department for a chemist in the water pollution control facility.
Okay.
I applied, and that was my first real entree into what I'd call real water treatment in the water industry.
Was that on the wastewater side?
That was on the wastewater side.
Yeah.
And it was wastewater work. A lot of my friends, kind of turned their nose up at what I was doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I try to remind people historically. I mean, we were just coming out of the 70s. We had celebrated Earth Day. There was a really large environmental consciousness that we had, and much as it was back then, I've talked to a lot of young people I've brought into the industry. They're not so young now, but it was noble and necessary work.
Yes,
and I think I learned that coming out of the 70s.
Yep.
As Martin Luther King used to say, there's nobility in the work you do, regardless of what it is. If you're going to be a janitor, you be the best janitor.
Yes.
And starting in, I did the best I could, and I stayed with the city for 6 years.
Okay.
Actually, finished up my master's degree at the same time while I was working for them up at RPI, the Harvard Graduate Center, and it was time to grow some wings. So I left wastewater for a while and went to work for the State Trash Authority.
Okay.
Which seems like a jump, but when you start dealing with landfill leachates and air emissions, it really wasn't much of a migration.
Right.
And I did that for a while, and then moved into kind of where I am now, civil engineering.
Okay.
For an engineering firm that was doing bridge work.
Okay.
And it was all in-river work. So setting up in-river testing protocols and compliance reports with the DEP and cutting some new ground with some of the new technology that was out there with the DOT at the time.
Yes.
And then it was back to the city of Middletown after that. So I kind of started my career in water at the city of Middletown, and after all of that went back as the Director of Water and Sewer for 23 years.
And what was the time frame between when you first left to when you came back?
About 11 years.
About 11 years. Okay. All right. Just give a little perspective.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then and I've been there right straight through. So my time in Middletown has been marked by some of the larger capital projects we've done on combined sewer overflow. And for your audience, that's separating storm water from sanitary water.
Yeah.
A lot of these older towns like Middletown, when they were constructed, it was one pipe to handle both your storm water and your sewer water.
Yeah. And
that worked fine until you had a big rainstorm when the system was overwhelmed and everything went into the river.
You bypassed the river.
That's right, which wasn't wasn't an ideal problem or situation. So in my time with the city of Middletown, did about $70 million worth of CSO corrective work.
Okay.
we left, when I left, it was the culmination of the regionalization project with Mattabasset.
Yeah, you put a pipe up to there.
Put a pipe all the way up to Mattabasset, and for those people driving in Middletown, just as you're driving south on 9 out of the city, that big building you see is 26 million gallon a day pump station.
Yeah.
And you think about water as necessary, water and sewer as necessary as it is. It does have an economic component.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
location for that facility, how it was designed, pulled all of the current treatment works off the river and inland modestly to free up all that riverfront.
Yes.
And as people look at the riverfront now, they're going to see that the old treatment plant is there. It's scheduled for some reuse, and I don't know whether I'll see the complete build out or the revitalization of the river.
Right.
But hopefully my kids and grandkids will.
Sure.
And when you take a look at what we've done to the river,
Yeah.
it's taken us generations of turning our back on the river.
Absolutely.
With industrial installations we've put there,
Sure.
treatment facilities we've put there. It's where nobody went, and now that's a whole different.
Well, it's a whole new culture now, as
Yes.
far as as far as from an aesthetic standpoint, the riverfront. I know Portland, for instance. We have the longest riverfront on the Connecticut River. We've got over 15 and a half miles of riverfront, and that's considered a big asset as far as that goes. I know on the Middletown side you don't have quite as much, but I know where the old treatment plant was. You also had next door the old Peterson tank farm.
Correct.
Okay, which is no longer there. Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so and again, bringing. I know Middletown's had an initiative to kind of connect downtown to the river. Unfortunately, you've got Route 9 that goes right through the center of it, and so forth. So they've got some ambitious plans to bring that together.
And I've seen the plans, and I think there are a number of good options to make that happen. But it really all started with planning for water and sewer.
Yep.
And it's so what I was doing with the city of Middletown for water and sewer not only answered those problems for operations and treatment,
Right.
but also when you get a little deeper, it's a chess game. How do you do all of that and allow for economic and public access?
Sure.
And it's as I tell people, it didn't take us a generation to turn our back on the river, and it's not going to take just a generation for us to reclaim it.
Sure.
So it's a long-term.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it from beginning to end on just the regionalization project. It was December of 1994. Former Mayor Sarah, God rest his soul, had a report, and he shoved it across his desk very gently, and I said, "Take a look at this and tell me if we can do it."
Yep.
And kind of foolishly, I said, "Yeah, we can do this." And 27 years later, we commissioned
Brought it to fruition.
We commissioned the facility. It was nice to have Mary and Sarah there for the event.
Yes.
I'd only wish that Tom was still alive to see his vision come true.
The fruits of the labor, so to speak. Yeah. No.
But it takes that kind of commitment.
Sure.
And that's just the sewer side of the equation.
Yes, and you also manage the water side. Now, primarily the water side. Obviously you have Higbee Reservoir and so forth as a surface water supply, but you also have wells down by the river.
Correct. And we had some when I first got to the city. There was some rub over mixing those two sources together. And a pump station that would allow us to wheel water from one to the other. Mm-hmm. And it took a big water main break for us to finally jump that shark.
Yeah.
And we started playing with the system. So Middletown's got enviably a really resilient system.
Yeah, yeah.
So even in some of the drought that the state has seen in the last few years,
Sure.
Middletown has the ability to really throttle down the Higbee Reservoir. We could turn it off, but they throttled it down just to keep the water coming through it on a daily basis fresh.
Yeah.
but they could rely on the well field for the balance of their needs, and using that same pump station wheeled it all the way out to the west side of town.
Wow. Wow.
So while city does have drought protocols in place, they really just start curbing use. But for the clients there, they never see any change in the level of service.
Right. Now, typically, how many million gallons a day does the city provide?
It depends on the day, anywhere between 3 to 4.5
Okay.
gallons a day.
Okay.
And the well field itself can nominally do up to 9 million gallons. Higbee, I want to see if my memory is correct. I want to say it's about 2.
Okay.
So we have an excess of water that allowed us to talk to the town of Durham. Again, another
Yep.
project that took 20 some odd years to
Yep.
bring to fruition.
Well,
To address a couple of Superfund sites they had there, and
down in
some
Durham,
MTBE contamination. But the ability for us to have had the excess water and bring that source to Durham was great. I want to give, and this goes for a number of different administrations and different people on water and sewer commissions, a lot of high marks. I mean, this really understood the necessity of water and sharing resources with communities we don't have.
Right.
And I've had this discussion with Larry McHugh. It simply goes that Middletown being healthy and having all this water is great.
Yeah.
But if you can't watch the health of your neighbors, I mean, we operate as a economic collective.
Sure.
And not being able to make sure that Durham, if we had the opportunity, was healthy and had a safe source of water, that didn't really inure to the benefit of Middletown in the long run.
Right.
So having us do that was really, I think, for everybody's benefit.
Sure. Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
it's nice to see that project done. I know Joe Fazzino, the current director over in Middletown, has saw that project through to the end, and it's up and it's running, and they're chasing some of the little gremlins out of the system, but
It works.
it works well.
For sure. Now, on your surface water, obviously, is that a conventional sand filter, or is that a rapid sand, or what is that out there?
It's sand and anthracite.
Okay.
It's an automated backwash.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but
No, right.
Automated backwash systems have their opponents and their proponents. Properly run, they work well. With some of the new regulations on backwash, they tend to waste a little more water in backwash just because of the way they're designed and plumbed. But the technology itself is really good. Water quality coming out of that plant for surface source is really good. Operations up there, I mean, you can have something that's properly designed, but your operators
Sure.
make all the difference.
Oh, man, you
And,
got to have the people. That's the. And speaking of operators, typically, how many operators or how many employees on both either the water and the sewer side that are presently employed over there?
Full complement for the Middletown Water Department when I left was 45.
Okay.
And that included administration, engineering, distribution, maintenance, sewer maintenance,
Okay.
sewer operations, which was at the treatment plant, now the pump station, and for water operations. I want to say they have 4 water operators and 1 water superintendent.
Okay. And how many wastewater operators do you have?
Wastewater operators, we used to have 4. I think we are down to 2 that man the pump station.
Okay.
And so it's new. It's highly automated. And when they do any big maintenance, they call on the sewer maintenance crew to come in and assist them.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you know, the whole premise of the podcast is to make younger people, especially going through trying to find their career and find their path in life. That there are viable opportunities within the industry. Not only on the water but also the wastewater side. But that umbrella, over the whole industry is very large. You mentioned administrative, you mentioned legal, you mentioned laboratory, and all of those are viable careers within the industry.
Yeah, I have and am still the chairman of the Connecticut Waterworks Association
Yep.
scholarship, and that
Yep.
was one of the pitches when we went for a general scholarship. Typically, we were giving scholarships to people who were going into engineering, going into some water-based career path into college.
Yep.
And my pitch was always that water was a lot more than just the engineering and the operations. It's a big tent.
Yeah.
It's about public relations and how you communicate with your clients over those regulatory issues or health issues regarding water. It's certainly about finance when you build these facilities and when you're doing rate work to charge people. It's about engineering. It's also about legal.
Sure. Absolutely.
And it's about health. So, we've given scholarships to people who are going off to nursing school.
Yeah.
People who are going off to on a pre-law.
Sure.
People who are going off to marine biology.
Yeah.
All of that touches the water industry.
Do me a favor, just wave your arm because our light sensor. There we go. Turn the lights back. Okay. I know I filmed many of the scholarship ceremonies up at the LOB and so forth, and you've done a great job, publicizing that. And, obviously Betsy Guerra and the whole Connecticut, Waterworks community is very supportive of that. But it's important, from that standpoint. And, not, from the standpoint of looking at folks getting out of high school, or even talking to Wes Winter about them, there are a lot of people that are considering a second career that are looking at careers within that water industry too.
And I'm glad you mentioned Wes. Wes is doing great work down at Gateway. Wes actually tagged me for 5 years to teach at Gateway for water distribution. And the folks we saw some folks right out of high school who were looking for some direction. We've had people coming from welding careers, and people with finance backgrounds.
Sure.
And that's why the pitch was, it's always larger than just what we do.
Exactly.
But people were coming through for distribution, and I saw a wide variety of people with different skills. A couple of them have gone on to become Walsh Scholarship winners, and they're currently working in industries. My finance guy actually backfilled a job from one of the Walsh Scholarship winners when he went to Regional Water Authority.
There we go.
And when I talked to the executive director, he said, "Where'd you get this guy?"
Yeah, there you go.
I said, well, he understands the water operations, but he's a great financial guy. So,
sure.
They started tapping into that.
Exactly.
In the utility he was in. And, this isn't, the bigger utilities, tend to be, big business and rather formulaic. But for a lot of the utilities in the state, they're small enough that if you have that little métier that makes you different or unique, or that skill set, utilities will find a way to tap into it, and
absolutely.
They design a job around what you have.
Sure, and like I say, when you're talking about the larger utilities with the Connecticut Water, the Aquarions, and the MDCs and so forth, they have more specialized folks that basically deal with what they do. But when you're down into a smaller utility, and not so much Middletown, but Portland, you got to be able to do everything, and go out and fix a leak, go out, and run a SCADA system or whatever. You got to be a kind of a jack of all, to make it all happen. And that's what it's all about. It really is.
I will tell you that I was worried, and this is a great podcast. I was worried about the future of water, and having taught at Gateway for 5 years and seeing the talent of the folks that are coming through. I was heartened. I think we're in a good place, and people who want to do this for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I always at my last class, so I'm not teaching anymore, so I can do this, and anybody's listening to the podcast,
there you go.
Don't have to wait for the last lesson. But I would throw out crumbs all along about what it's like to be in the water industry, and I would make references to A Few Good Men, ask people to take a look at it.
Sure.
And I think you've heard the spiel because I've done this at the scholarship
Many times.
and it kind of goes like this for all of you who've seen the movie. It's Jack Nicholson is on the stand, and he's being interrogated by Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And most people remember the line, "You can't handle the truth."
Right.
That was an ad lib line, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But Jack Nicholson he was down in Guantanamo, and he said, I'm the guy that stands on that wall, so you could stand there in your lily white uniform. And
Yeah.
and he goes on. And clearly in the water industry, you're not at Guantanamo, but in some metaphorical way, you're standing on the wall.
Sure.
And as I explained to people, that the industry calls somebody who has a dedication, a moral compass, an integrity, and a commitment.
Sure.
When I was in Middletown, and I worked with fire police closely,
Yeah.
and I would say, and not in the way of poking fun or denigrating what they do, but I would say, a bad day for police, you show up at a domestic and you got a murder-suicide.
Yeah.
That's a horrible day.
Yeah.
Fire department, you come to a fully involved fire, mom, dad,
Yeah.
3 kids, family dog, all gone.
Yeah.
That's a horrible day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're running a water company
Yeah.
and you got 30, 50, 150,000 people on the end of that pipe,
Yeah.
you don't have the opportunity to have a bad day.
No.
You can't have a bad day. You have to get it right every
day.
single day.
24/7.
And so as I close, I said, well, you're standing on that wall,
Yep.
that wall Nicholson was talking about.
Yeah.
That, when somebody leaves the house in the morning and they grab a glass of water to give their aging parent their morning medications, they don't worry about it
Yep.
because somebody like you
Yeah.
is standing on that wall.
Exactly.
And when a mother comes home at the end of the day and puts her infant into the tub for a bath, nothing more precious to a mom than her child.
Yeah.
She doesn't worry about it because somebody like you is on that wall. And you're saying, you don't have to worry about it. I'm here.
Exactly.
I got this.
Yep.
And if you want to do that and go through a whole career, every day touching people's lives, and at the end of 20, 25 years, 30 years of a career,
Yep.
you leave and nobody knows your name.
Exactly.
If you want a career like that, sign up.
We're here.
But I think the people that do sign up are that selfless, and they understand the dedication and the moral compass, and
Sure.
that goes with all of that. And the folks I saw at Gateway, they got it.
Sure.
They really did get it. So like I said, I'm hopeful
Exactly.
for what the future holds, and I brought a number of people into the industry through the years.
Yes, you have.
Talking to them, and hopefully in semi-retirement, I'll still get a chance to do that.
Yeah. Speaking of semi-retired, now that you're, so retired from the city of Middletown, tell us how that progression migrated to where you are now.
Well, about 2 weeks after I retired, I joined Prime AE up in Wethersfield, which is an engineering firm, and I'm director of the water infrastructure for the last 6 years this month.
Right.
And we still work with Middletown. They were one of the clients that Prime had beforehand. And we've done a lot of work with the MDC.
Yeah,
I got some really talented designers. MDC seems to, I like to think, give us their hardest projects.
Sure.
We do a lot of work in the downtown area. We're currently working on a project around Hartford Hospital.
Okay.
Just a lot of underground utilities, a lot of conflicts, and I got a great design team. And I like to think the MDC has a lot of respect for the work we do, and they've given us some of the harder assignments, which I like.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's again, that gives you guys credence to the type and the quality of the work that you do and make it all happen.
Yeah. So I've notified them a year ago that I intended to retire at the end of May 2023. So as much cajoling to keep me around, I'll be 68, and as I've told everybody in the organization, and I'll repeat it here, I said, if this retirement thing doesn't work out, I like to think I'm talented enough. I could always, but I've been a good saver. I've done all the things my parents taught me.
Yeah.
But I can, I'm a talented guy. I like to think I could always
Contribute.
always make more money, but I can't make more time.
Exactly.
For my family or my grandkids.
No, exactly.
But having said that, I'm only going to be dropping down to part-time.
Well,
I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love the people in the association. As I tell them, I'm going to be coming to the joint conferences probably till I can't move anymore. And it's part of the reason why I stay around the industry. The people I met when I got into the water industry became fast friends.
Sure.
And I think it's because we all share, as I said, that moral compass, that common value.
Absolutely.
It was easy to get close to people because it had been like I knew them my entire life.
Sure.
Because of that common set of goals and attributes that we value in life. And even in retirement, I don't want to let that go.
No.
These people have become such dear friends that
absolutely.
That I'm going to take it as far as God lets me.
There you go. Well, you and I have been to many an annual conference, both on the CWWA side and the CTAWWA side. So we share a lot of those common goals and a lot of those friends. We're all in the industry, and I'm embarking on going to be 50 years in the industry. So we're talking about retiring. You're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm figuring I want to get to the golden 50, and then I'm getting out.
I don't see you getting out.
No. Well, like I say, it's there's some options as far as that goes. The podcast is going great, and it's working out. My last guest that we had on was the Commissioner of Health from DPH, Kutani. Okay, and she was very great. I caught her over at the fall meeting over in AquaTurf, and she was very gracious. And after her presentation, she came out and sat with me and talked a little bit about her day job. So it was very nice. So, before we close, I think, from a standpoint of advice to, college seniors or high school seniors, what advice would you give?
I to steal a line from Nike, just do it. Yeah. I mean, it just take the plunge. I mean, to use another water analogy. I think if you're interested in this career, and you take a look and you apply for one of the positions, and they go everywhere. So, from graduate or even out of high school, whether it's a maintenance or clerical position or entree engineering position or field maintenance, a fair amount of engineering there. Just do it. I think the people you will meet along the way, even during that process, you're going to be amazed. Sure, they're just super people. And if anything that I've said today resonates with any of the folks listening, that if that's what you want out of life, if you want to do something that's more than a job, it's more than a paycheck. It defines who you are as a person, then this is the industry for you.
It's a career. Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Guy Russo is in the house. And Guy, thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your thoughts on the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. And again, if you have any questions about the industry, reach out to the Connecticut section AWWA or the Connecticut Waterworks section. And I'm your host, Dave Kosminski. And for the careers you didn't know about, check us out. Thanks so much.